Hi everyone, welcome to the 18th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziaks, and today I'm joined by acting professor Tom Schwans.
Hello.
Yeah, and thanks again for episode 5 guest Kate for stepping in and helping me TD.
Oh, which episode is this? If Kate was episode 5.
This is episode 18.
Okay, all right. You did just say that, didn't you? And I missed that completely.
So Tom, I know you're not as knowledgeable about the Zicast, so
No, this is the first for me.
Yeah, so this is really like just a way for me to get to know people around me on a deeper level, because everyone's more interesting than I think they are, and of course, everyone has a story. So Tom, I'd like to kind of get into things and ask you to tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, that's such a broad question. Tell me about yourself. It's a beautiful first date we're on. So what is the standard line? I mean, I grew up in a very small town in South Dakota, 600 people, and then moved to what I thought was a big city of 5,000 people in South Dakota near Mount Rushmore. And, got into, my parents were pharmacists. I always thought that's where I was going to be, what I was going to be doing. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and from the time I was 3, my father was always the one like, you're the pharmacist, you're the one, which is a lot of pressure to put on, a 3-year-old, especially when both of your parents are pharmacists. And then I got into the theater in high school, and it was not something I wanted to do. My older sister did it, and my younger brother wanted to, but it was not something I was really interested in. My sister did a play called Up the Down Staircase, which had this like Danny Zuko Grease character in it. Now I went to see it, and I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be Danny Zuko. It's the only time I ever thought I wanted to do anything like that. And then I auditioned for a play because my English teacher told me I should, and that was it. I was sort of bit. And then I went, I wasn't going to do it. I mean, I'm from a really small town. It wasn't something I thought I could do as a profession. I mean, I know people did it, but I wasn't one of those people that I can't. But went to a school that I'm assuming that I was going to be pre-med, actually, or medicine of some sort. But I declared a theater major because I could get scholarship money, but I went to a theater school. I mean, they had a great other programs, but I just didn't think I'd be ever able to do it. And then suddenly I was pulled aside pretty early on by going, oh, you have to do this. And I got very lucky and fortunate, and I bounced around the country as an actor for a long time and ran a theater in Iowa. I went in for a 6-week acting job and ended up being the associate artistic director of this union place. And then I left that, not knowing what I was going to do next. Then I ended up going to graduate school, founded another theater, Shakespeare company in graduate school. I've been working as an actor, a director, a producer, and teacher for years now. I've been very fortunate to be working all the time. So,
Which is the goal.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says that, and that's the thing. I remember when I was in Iowa running the theater, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and he said, it's interesting, actors are only ever calm and at ease when we're working. It's like everybody else looking for a vacation, but for actors, like we're working, and it's like it's really intense and crazy, but it's what we do, and it's where we find our center. And so that's why actors, I just want to be working, that's true to a certain extent, but, we all want to be making a living. So luckily I've been doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in a profession like acting that's so driven by passion, where it could be very hard to find work.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but there is a ton of work. There is always, there's always work. There's unemployment.
Yes.
But there's always work. The best actors that I know are ones that are able to create their own stuff in one way or another. So much of what we think acting is asking other people for jobs. But the best actors out there, and the ones that have even found the most success, I mean, you could name almost any one of them that you can off the top of your head, and they've all done something where they're executive producers now, where they're creating their own stuff. They may have not started out that way, but they realized in order to keep doing the stuff that I want to do, they have to be invested in the ground floor of creating something.
Definitely. Like, first thing that comes to mind is Matt Damon and Ben Affleck writing Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Giving themselves those star roles that they wanted, and that kind of fueling their careers
that's
moving forward.
Fantastic example. I mean, of 2 actors that were really just trying to do it and were really tired of asking for jobs.
Yeah. And then that carrying forward for Ben Affleck becoming a director and directing some really, really good films.
Yeah, he's found his voice in so many great ways.
Mm.
You know, like once you become a star, there's a different lens on you, and so you know, like I feel bad for the guy whose personal life is sort of like everybody's business. But you know, that's the price of fame sometimes, and you know, I'm okay not having that.
Yeah, yeah, and at the end of the day, actors are artists.
I absolutely. I mean, more than anything, you know, at least I hope the good ones are.
For sure, for sure. So to kind of get into some of our topics, my first one was asking you where your passion for acting stems from, but you kind of got into that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to kind of ask you my second topic, which was what actors or teachers were formative for you in your acting journey?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Every actor. Every actor I've ever worked with as a director, every actor I've worked with as a colleague. I'm on stage with them, I'm on camera with them. Every one of them has informed me in some way or another. Sometimes it's, I don't want to be anything like that. Other times it's like, I need to be more like that. Sometimes it's just the way people respond to them as people, right? But I can think of like teachers that I've had. My high school teacher, Michael Pangburn, you know, name nobody knows outside of my very small town area. But he was just amazing, and he created this thing that we all wanted to do. I mean, there are a few of us that actually came out of that high school that are professional actors now. I mean, again, I graduated with 82 people in my high school class. I mean, it's a very small school, quite frankly. And most people can't find South Dakota on a map. They're like, it's somewhere in the middle, right? I say I'm near Mount Rushmore, and they're like, oh, Mount Rushmore's in South Dakota. Like, they don't know. And that's fine, but that's like, he had this thing. I did the whole idea of like small schools and like the cliques and the personalities in high school and the Mean Girls thing. My high school just wasn't like that when I was there. I did the musical with the heavyweight wrestling champion, state wrestling champion. I mean, he was in the musical with me. And his main competition was in the Shakespeare with me, because they all wanted to do it because it was so cool. It was, I don't know, it was cool, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun place to be. And if anything, the one thing that comes from what we do as artists is this community. And that's the thing I learned more than anything in high school with Michael Pangburn. And then I pick, Bill Wilson and Jim Bartroff and these people in undergrad that were just fantastic directors and helped me along. And then one of the greatest acting teachers in the world was teaching at Brown University when I was there, Brian McElhaney, and excuse me, and Chris Bay as a clown, and Stephen Bisher. These are people, I say their names only because people should know who they are. They are incredible teachers as well as artists themselves. Incredible.
And then, because acting and art, it all really is a community. And I like you bringing up people's names who are incredible artists that people don't know about, because I feel like that's a lot of the craft. Because I think of a quote from Ethan Hawke where he talks about, if you truly love the craft, you would teach the craft and things like that. So to kind of be dedicated in that way is very remarkable. And also in regards to like the community, that's why kind of in our acting class, that's why I always go first. Because I like to go first so I could get notes from you, and then I can watch everybody else. So then I can kind of learn from you right away and then see what everybody else does and build on that.
So, going first can always be so scary because you're kind of the guinea pig, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So many other people want to go second. It's hard. You can get somebody to go second most of the time, but nobody really wants to go first. So I appreciate that you want to jump up and do that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the greatest strategy in the world, but it's one that I enjoy because I have a profound appreciation for everyone I'm in that class with.
Yeah, but Ryan, more than anything, it's the anyone that wants to go first has the courage to step up, right? It's I'm going to do something hard. That, more than anything, is going to be something that drives you as an artist, as everything you do. It's like, I am willing to stick my neck out there time and again. Not just because I think I might learn something, but because the courage to do that means that you will have courage to do a lot of other things, oddly enough.
Definitely, yeah. And it's just all trial and error. Like, I go up there and I don't do well. It's all just a learning process. And that's why I appreciate being up there. And it's also why I'm not that scared being up there, because It's all, acting is performative. Acting is kind of feeling these emotions in real time. So there's no, like you said, there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
So that's why it's always worth going up there and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, there's no right way to act. I mean, there is no right, like if you do these things every time. I mean, there's technique and there are things that do that. Yes, there are steps, but there's no right. If I do it like this, it'll be good. It's like speak your truth, being truthful. I mean, Sanford Meisner, one of the greatest acting teachers ever, his famous quote is, acting, well, you remember it, you tell me.
Yeah.
It was your favorite. I remember do you remember it?
Yeah, acting is, why am I blanking?
It's okay. Behaving truthfully
under imaginary circumstances.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what it is. And we all do this. When I teach, I stay away from talking about emotion, because it's not about controlling emotions. Because we all have emotions all the time. It's just about how do I, not instead of portraying emotions or even having emotions, you can't stop emotions. You're a human being. Like, you're always having them. It's really about trying to get something from pursuing a goal. Get something. Be active.
Yes.
So.
And interpretive too in that way. Also all very interesting. So I'd like to ask you, what are some of the productions you've been in and some of your favorite parts that you've played?
Oh wow! I mean, there's so many that I loved doing. I mean, they're great pieces that I love doing. There's a play called Stones in His Pockets that I've done twice, where I get to play 18 different people. There's 2 actors that play the whole town, and there's I loved doing things like Starbuck in The Rainmaker. I played in high school. Still one of my favorite roles ever was playing Fagin in Oliver the Musical, because it's not a role that I get to do now. In high school, I could play somebody that was that age and frail. That old and frail, and like nobody's gonna believe me now at this age. Although I still feel like I could do that. You just nobody can see it, so I have to do the whole makeup thing and all that. There's a bunch of stuff. I loved directing tons of things. I did this Amadeus in the Round. I did so many great things that I loved. I don't know that I was great in any of them or that I was even good, but the experience itself was phenomenal. And there are, part of it is like the other parts of this sort of like going back to the community thing is like sometimes the art was okay, but the community was incredible. And so that community, we came back together. Guerrilla Shakespeare Project, which I founded in graduate school with my friends, became that. Our art wasn't everything we wanted to be early on. We tried really hard and we worked really hard and we really wanted it to be something. And it takes so much time to really find your voice. We knew we had a community. We knew we had a smart and talented community, but in finding that voice took a lot of practice. There's this thing we talk about, David Milch talked about, who he says, you cannot think your way into correct action. You have to act your way into correct thinking. And that's just a story of life. It's like you can't, no matter how hard you think about it, you can't do life right. You have to act, and then it changes your thinking. You have to do things. It's true of acting. It's true in life. So,
definitely. And
like some of the Guerrilla Shakespeare Project stuff. Like I played Brutus, I think 3 times now, but we created an original piece from Shakespeare's language called "Unto the Republic," which is one of my favorite pieces ever. And then there's stuff where I get to, I'm playing Tartuffe and other places, and I'm going to do a show, soon. I've done a lot of stuff, and hopefully we'll continue to.
Yeah. And it's always about, like we talked about, getting that work. And it's just like, you're talking about filmmaking communities. Like, I was talking about with my guest earlier today, about how fun it is just to work with your friends and to grow with them. And like you said, even if the art is okay, to work with people that are driven, that are passionate, it only makes you better.
And it makes the art better.
Definitely.
If you want to be there and work hard on something, it just makes it better. You show up and give your A game. But if you feel intimidated most of the time, like, who wants to? You're just trying to do something to please someone else, and you're not really being an artist. You're being a puppet.
Yeah. And also talking about how you don't know if any of the work you've done is good. I feel like acting's weird in that way, where I do a lot of creative writing, and I can look at my writing and think, oh, well, that's good. But then I can never look at my acting and think, wow, that's good.
Yeah, it's so much of our work. Well, our work as actors is ephemeral, meaning it's going to go away in terms of that moment, the moment. Hopefully on film you're going to capture it, and the film will last forever. You might have a moment, and then it's captured on film, and it's brilliant. But the rest of the work is going to go away, especially in the theater, which is so instantaneous, which is that if you don't see that show on that night, it doesn't exist anymore. And it's just gone. So,
yeah, there's something special about that.
I think so.
To be there in that moment in the experience where, like you said, film lasts forever, but to see a special theater performance that would last through word of mouth and people's memories, that's very kind of fascinating. And it creates there's like a magic to it. There's magic to movies.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's magic to all of it. I mean, like Tom Hanks, who everybody loves as an actor, and I do too. He's not going to do Philadelphia or Forrest Gump now, right? He's a completely different person, and so like we were lucky that we caught those moments on film for that time. So, these are moments where he was a great actor. And there are moments that, I look back on at some of his work, I'm like, well, it wasn't so great then. There's all sorts of ways to look at it. And again, it's like every moment is different, and sometimes you capture it and sometimes you don't. The technique of being an actor, of being an artist, is finding your way back to like how to generate and to be present and to like live whatever this moment is fully, and hopefully you'll be able to capture it in those moments.
Yeah. A lot of it's kind of who you're working with too. Like playing quarterback in the NFL. It's a lot about the situation. If you're with the right director, you're with the right writers. Kind of like Tom Hanks in that regard.
Oh, sure. I mean, and Tom Hanks uses a great example of that. He was talking about doing a film with Meg Ryan. He says, it's like doing
You've got mail.
Yeah, exactly. Because they had done Joe versus the Volcano, and they had done Sleepless in Seattle. But they were doing, Sleepless in Seattle was two different movies. They don't meet until the end. They didn't do a single scene together until the end of that film. So when they did You've Got Mail, he actually uses this example of it's like acting with Meg Ryan is like being in a tennis match, and like you just hit her the ball and she hits it back, and it's this great back and forth.
Like synergy, yeah.
Yeah, you use the football thing as being quarterback. It's like you can sometimes throw a terrible pass, but that receiver will, thank God for them.
Yeah. You've Got Mail reminds me of, one of the movies that inspired it, The Shop Around the Corner with Jimmy Stewart, which Jimmy Stewart's an actor I've always looked up to, so that's something that popped into my head.
That's great. Do you have a favorite Jimmy Stewart performance?
I would say The Shop Around the Corner, probably. Well, that and It's a Wonderful Life. He has a thing for Christmas movies that are iconic.
They're fantastic. Truly. Watching his work and it's a classroom to watch his work sometimes. Like just watching that moment to moment stuff. One of those, that scene in It's a Wonderful Life where he's in the bushes with Donna Reed, and she's like, it's hysterical and charming and easy and like so ahead of what filmmaking was at that time.
Yeah.
So, or even if you see the Philadelphia Story, which Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart and Katharine Hepburn. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah, even what he expresses in It's a Wonderful Life, his despair, is devastating, especially now with the way mental health is highlighted in society today. It wasn't as much back then, especially knowing when he experienced in World War II. It's really fascinating to watch him kind of reach every emotion in that film, from the bliss of having a family to the devastation of potentially losing that. Yeah. So that's why like his work is something I've always looked up to as I've started to study acting. Yeah.
And what a great, I'm sure he probably talks about this somewhere, but what a great gift to have, served in a war and have to come back, and during a time where we don't talk about PTSD, we don't talk about like the war. It's like you just have to live your life as if it never happened. And so many people come back so broken, and during that time. But what a gift to be an actor, where you're like, oh, but my job is to explore emotion and to explore my feelings and to like live it fully in a situation that is heightened, so I can express it in some way. One of the things I talk about all the time is that acting is therapeutic. It's not therapy, but it can be very therapeutic.
Yeah, it's happened to those emotions. Yeah, and he very much was a quintessential actor of that time with his, that kind of voice, Murray, and all that. So he was quite the legend. So I also like to ask you something I find quite interesting. Is some acting tools now that you wish you knew growing up?
Yeah, I mean, it starts, if you've heard my class of the very first day, it's like that you are enough, that you're already far more interesting than anything you think you're supposed to do. So much of my acting early on was trying to perform, to try to do it right, to have feelings, to show the audience stuff. And there's certain things you have to know. You have to know where the camera is. There's technique stuff that you have to know, but to live fully in a state, what most audiences want to be a fly on a wall. They don't want you to show anything. They want to see you in they want to see a person go through a situation, as opposed to an actor showing us that they're going through something.
Yeah.
And you can understand that intellectually, but the idea that whatever comes out of me, if I'm actually pursuing the goal, is going to be right, as opposed to, no, I have to make it clear that I'm doing this thing so the audience gets it. And years of trying to be something other than I am, and to be okay with whatever comes out at any given moment. I have a quick story. I have a ton of stories. But my friend Jane, who is done a bunch of Broadway shows, and she was talking about being in a voice lesson, and she's trying to sing this song, and her voice teacher said, I can see you plan what that note's supposed to sound like before you even sing it. And she's like, whatever the note comes out, just sing the note. And she goes, yeah, but I don't like my voice. She goes, it doesn't matter, it's your voice. And so to be okay with, even if I don't always like necessarily what's going on with me, that I can just share it and let it be what it is. That's something I wish I'd learned when I was in undergrad.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think of a quote that I once heard where it's like, the best actors don't show the emotion. It's kind of concealed, like how human beings act.
Yeah.
And to kind of be comfortable. And that's kind of why in my current scene that I'm doing, I chose the driver from Drive.
Yeah.
I'm a big Ryan Gosling fan for his versatility in his work, but to take a character that very much goes to I don't want to say the basics, but he's so matter of fact and direct that you could kind of just, it's very, I don't want to say easy, but it helps to like be natural in a character like that, where he's like, I drive. Like, that's what he does. He's direct with these characters who want him to do heist for them. So that's something that I'm, as I'm trying to continue to learn how to character act, to kind of get in that mindset. I think that's why I chose a character like that. So that makes a lot of sense with what you said.
Yeah, I was listening to this interview with Bryan Cranston, who I love, and he's done a ton of different types of things. And he says, when doing comedy, if you're doing sketch comedy like Saturday Night Live, part of the fun is that you as the actor are in on the joke. You know what the joke is, and so you're like having fun, and we're watching you sort of play at something, and that's why when you like you start to laugh, and the audience knows that you're in on it, and that's what's fun for them. It's like you might break, and they love that even more because you broke, because you think it's funny too. But if you're doing television or film or scene work, doing a comedy, they don't want to see that. They want to see how important it is for you. The break is not, they don't want to believe that you are the actor doing something. They want to watch you in a situation, which is why I always say, like, people in comedies don't know they're in comedies. They think they're in these really dramatic situations, and that's why it's funny.
And I've seen that same interview, so I knew exactly what you're going to refer to. And yet, and that's another reason why I appreciate Ryan Gosling's work so much, because he's in these dramatic films, but then you see films like The Nice Guys or like Barbie, where he's this really heightened, goofy guy, and it's like, to tap into these different roles, like that's exactly what you want to be as an actor.
Yeah. But, there's the thing about Ryan Gosling is he spent a lifetime doing this. He's been doing it a long, long, long time, and so he's really sort of learning his skill. Again, this is a craft. It's not something you can just sort of sit down and figure out. Like, no, it's a craft. It's like making shoes. You have to like learn how to do and do and do and do. And, then you learn how to make something, a different kind of shoe, and you learn how to make shoes a little differently, but you have a way of going about it. It's not something you can just pick up and do. Yeah. Right?
And much like learning, it's just a lifelong process. Especially Ryan Gosling. He's went through everything. Child actor, heartthrob, and serious actor, and comedic actor, and then kind of balancing, now action star.
Oh, yeah.
He kind of just touches everything. So I think that's quite meaningful, and that's kind of his evolution over his career.
Oh, yeah. He's great. I'm a huge fan. Like, there's a movie called Lars and the Real Girl.
Yep, I know. You assigned it to someone else. I
Yeah.
was kind of jealous.
Yeah, I mean, I love that film. It's it's a movie about a guy who falls in love with his sex doll.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it is. He falls in love with this sex doll, but that's not what the movie's about. That's the plot. That's kind of what it's around, but that's not what that movie's about. And it's a brilliant film because of his and everyone's performance around that. Everyone in that film is just outstanding, and of course, he's the only name we know, but everyone is just great.
Definitely. And then kind of continue forward, I would like to ask you kind of the rewards of taking your acting experience and teaching students the craft.
The rewards of that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great. I mean, the rewards are the rewards. It's different than, one of the things that is helpful for me as an actor is to teach, because I watch students like yourself step up, and I see what's going on, and I'm like, okay, what's helpful? What's actually happening with this person right now? Because, there's so many things that go on, and it's easy to forget as a teacher sometimes, and especially for teachers that haven't done it in a while, that this is hard, that this is hard work. And, when you step away from it and you can just look at somebody and go, just do it like this. And far too many teachers do that. And, and I'm not saying I don't catch myself doing that sometimes. I do, because I forget sometimes that it's hard. And it bothers me when that happens. Most of the time as a teacher, I'm trying to channel one of my great professors and learn how do you talk to somebody about what's going on with them. Because the thing that it reminds me as a teacher that helps me as an artist is not just that this is hard, but that it's incredibly vulnerable. And when I go into a classroom, I have to be very aware that I'm asking students and human beings to, okay, time for you to get up here and bare your soul to strangers. And that's very vulnerable and very scary. And as an actor, sometimes you fall back on your technique and it becomes easier. But the truth is like when it's vulnerable, it is scary, and but it's also glorious.
Yeah.
So, the rewards of that are or anytime, it's like as a teacher, as an artist, is to be, or as a director, it's all the same thing. It's like I want to be present with you. I want to see what's really going on with you, and I want to assist it. Whether you're the actor in the scene with me, I want to be with you. I want to play the scene. I want to assist it. I want to help you, and I want to help the scene. As a director, I want to make sure that the whole piece is happening for everyone. As a teacher, it's the same thing. I want to see what's really going on with you. What's happening? What will help us make you live fully in this moment? And how can I live fully in it with you? So sometimes I succeed and sometimes I fail miserably. I misread something all the time. So
yeah, I mean, as we all do, it's like you said, it's not a right or wrong thing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the thing about academia, being in a university setting here in this glorious podcast space, academia is actually the antithesis of art, because academia is about quantifying and to show and to publish and to lay it out, and it's these things and here's how it works. Art is the human experience, and it is ephemeral, and it's personal, and it's emotional, and it's talking about your soul. Well, how do you quantify any of those things for academia? So, like, being in a class, that it's the struggle that we have as acting teachers, and it's like, or even this stuff in like film, like, okay, is this good film or a bad film? Some of it is just subjective. But we have to grade you. And the grading thing seems very strange sometimes when you're doing that. So we do this other thing, which is like, well, it's an academic course, so we write. We write and we look at things intellectually. We look at performances like, well, now can you talk about that performance and what works and what doesn't? But in terms of the actual acting, it's like, are you making choices? Are you doing the thing? Are you really going for it? I asked a student earlier today at a lunch, and I said, so I have to do this podcast, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I was like, what do you remember about things that I talk about? She goes, you're famous for saying, do the thing. And I was like, yeah, but out of context, that's weird. But it is. It's like you have to do the thing.
Yeah, and I very much appreciated all of that, taking the class to be able to kind of get out of my shell and continue to learn the craft, and that is all very important. And I'd also like to bring up the time. So it's 4:18 right now.
Okay.
Do you need to be out of this door by 4:30 or out of the school by 4:30?
I'll just walk out the door at 4:30. We can call it a day at 4:30.
Okay. I wanted to check back
yeah,
in
I'm good.
regards to that as we continue to move onward. So I'd like to ask you about your involvement with theater here at QU and what that's meant to you.
It's meant a lot. QU theater has changed a lot. I first came in to teach a class in the fall of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my thing when running the theater in Iowa is I started an education program with this theater because they could do it and they should. And so I've always wanted to be part of the education of people, mostly because I love the art and I want everybody to do it. But coming to QU was my first sort of, I taught at other universities, but coming to QU, the QU, what's the word I'm looking for here? Culture was not really theater-centric. They had I think that was the first year that we were actually going to have a theater major. And so they were really sort of starting to build an idea. The facility was, just a big classroom. There wasn't a lot of space for it. It was more of a club. But what I got from my classes were the real hunger for the things we're talking about, right? This sort of like, this thing that is about being a human being. It's like, this is the, I don't know if I'm able to swear on this podcast or not.
Feel free.
This sort of, the understanding that so much of how we present ourselves in the world is bullshit.
Yeah.
That, the example I use is, how many of those selfies do you take or photos do you take and filters do you go through before you post that one on Instagram, because how the way we need the world to see us, and that acting is actually about being truthful, and we all know that is just to practice that. So it was really fantastic to have come to a school that was students were hungry for that sort of thing, because the academia, like I said earlier, is the antithesis of art, and it's like, I can explore my humanity. And sometimes my QU students want to do it, and other times they just leave me alone and give me my A. This is supposed to be an easy class. And I say it all the time. I say it on the first day. It's like, I know that acting sounds like it's an easy A. It's not. So know that coming into it. Very much so.
And yeah, when I really much seconding that, when I first came to QU, I didn't realize there was such a big film community and a big theater community and a lot of really passionate artists, and that's something I've really, really enjoyed, and that's really helped my work since coming here and being involved in all of these programs. And thinking about it, I forgot the point I was going to make.
No,
but
let's go back to community. And when you came in as a film person here, you're transferring as a junior, like you said, and you came into this community, and we had a new person come in quickly to produce us today. Because you needed somebody fast, because somebody fell through, and it's like, we need this to happen, and you could call somebody and they just come, not because they're getting paid or because you asked, and we want the thing to happen. And that's the film community is really like that too.
Very much so, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I do this show, is to kind of just kind of, like I said, to talk to people, but also just because I have this really incredible support system. Thank you, Kate, for showing up here. And I just like to highlight that in that way. And to think of the point that I forgot before, in our lives, we all kind of play characters. So why not act?
Yeah.
Why not embrace that, so to speak?
It's like, I talk about this all the time. It's like one of the things that drives me nuts, that teachers and parents and say to young people, including to ourselves, which is just just be yourself. Like, what the heck does that mean? Like, what self do you want me to be? Because I'm a completely different person with my parents than I am with my girlfriend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or even I'm completely different with the girlfriends than I am with my guy friends. Like, I say stuff to the guys that I would never say to any of those. And it's like, there's just guy humor. Like, but it's also like, well, which self am I? I'm all of those things.
Yeah.
Some of it I'm proud of, some of it I'm not. And so the stuff, hopefully, that I'm not proud of, like, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so as an actor, it's like, oh, I can be anything at any given moment because I am anything at any given moment. Human beings contain multitudes. I mean, what's that? We make geodes look like just ordinary rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick from our catalog of personalities.
Yeah. At any given moment, we have all of that.
Yeah. And always a lot to tap into, and that's why I think acting is such an incredible art. And it's something one of the big reasons why I pursue it so much. So to kind of continue onwards, I'd like to ask you if there's one piece of advice you'd give to aspiring actors, what would it be?
I ask, so what do you want out of it, right? That's the first thing that I would ask. So I usually ask, when I get asked questions, I would like, especially for advice, it's like, well, my advice is asking more questions. So, like I usually say something like, well, why do you want this? And they're like, well, I'm not in it for the money. And my response is always good, because there's not a lot of money. I mean, that's not really true. There are people making millions and millions of dollars, right? You get paid a lot of money, or you get paid very little money, right? So the old line is, you can make $1 million, you just can't make a living. So much of this work is about learning how to maintain the art and the work when you're not getting paid or working, if that makes sense. So if you're looking to do this as a profession, it is about finding ways to make yourself money for all practical purposes and continue to do the art in the lean times. So
yeah, that's why I think it's very important to have different outlets, like we've talked about, creatively being able to do like you're a director, of course you teach the craft, so just being able to find different things to, of course, support yourself, but also keep yourself sane when you're not working, and give you ways to work, like having a film community. I know you have a lot of actor friends that I'm sure that you talked about in class last week, or that you worked with in New York, just grabbing scripts. Your friend grabbed a script from The Bachelorette to read. So it's just finding work wherever you can. Yeah.
And it is a community, and it's important for all of those things, but also to create your own work, which means for me, it's always been about knowing as much as you can about as much as you can. That's my advice for the world, because it's been my journey. It's not everybody's journey. I have lots of friends who their journey was like, I'm staying in my lane. I'm an actor, and it's what I do. And they found ways to make money outside of that, or to, like, when they have a really good acting job, they've learned how to store money and move things around. But my thing has always been do everything. Most of I would get hired as an actor, and then I'd stay on to design lights, because I just learned how to do that because I was from a program that I had to hang lights a lot. You know more than you think you do, to try new things. The biggest thing I will always say about any artist is stay up to date with technologies and what things going on, and talk to people, spend time with working actors and working artists, not necessarily because they're going to get you work, but because it's going to remind you that people work. It's so easy to sit at home and complain. I mean, there are tons of movies about little artists sitting around, being like, oh, it's only because those people aren't working. Find ways to continue to do your art. Yeah. Whether you're getting paid or not. And the more you know, the more you can do. Yep. And I think it's important, as I want to go into filmmaking, to know every aspect of filmmaking, and especially in regards to acting. It's something I really want to continue going forwards, among other things. Like, I want to continue to do this. I want to write. I want to make films. I want to hopefully write
and act in films.
Yeah.
And
Look, the best actors I know on stage or on camera are ones that understand how those mediums work. They understand how light works on stage. They know how to get into their light. They know how they understand all of those how the sets work. On camera, they know what their shot is. They understand lenses sometimes. They understand like what's going on. Understanding what's on the other side helps your technique. You can still act and be present in all those things, but you have to live within the framework of whatever's happening.
Definitely. And as our time kind of winds down here, I would just like to thank you so much for coming on, and of course teaching a class that I've been very, very fond of.
Oh, well, thank you. And I am fond of having you in class too.
Thank you.
It's like, again, you're the one that steps up, and that leadership is a big, big deal. This is where I guess we're talking, I talk too much sometimes.
Not at all.
Babble on about what I love about the art.
That's why you're here.
But thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I am grateful.
Thank you. And I'm grateful that you came on, and I'm very excited to finish out this semester and to continue acting. I hope I could get another one of your classes again before I depart from Quinnipiac.
Yeah, well, we're not done yet. By the end, you might be like, I'm so done with Tom.
Well,
for a second there, I was like, I hope I can get an A, Tom.
well, I guess we'll see.
Yes.
So thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And as always, this is Ryan Ziaks with the Zicast, where everyone has a story, signing off. Thank you so much for watching.